So my name is Anis Raihan. We are from Group 6. We are going to explain to you guys about the challenges in capital expenditure decision.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Anis Soraya binti Jaliluddin.
Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nur Husna Fikire binti Muhammad Atta.
Hi, my name is Nur Izzati Mansur.
Hi, my name is Nur Nabila Zafira binti Muhammad Isa.
Alright guys, here we are in the definition of capital expenditure decision. Okay, what is capital expenditure decision? Capital expenditure decision is the process of making decision regarding to the investment in fixed asset which are not meant for sales. The examples of the non-current asset is the land, building, machinery or else. Okay, this is also referred to the long-term planning for proposed capital expenditure and includes the long-term to raise long-term funds and their utilization of the funds. Okay, and then this capital expenditure also is very important because it's decision that takes by the manager in this area which may affect the workings and the profitability of the firm. And then next, capital expenditure decision is also known as the capital budgeting decision. If you heard this before, this meant is by the capital expenditure decision also. Okay, this also manager in all organizational before this usually face the major decision which involve the cash flow over the several years, which means they face every year. Next, we go for the features or characteristic of capital expenditure decision. Okay, firstly, what is the characteristic of capital expenditure decision? Alright, capital expenditure is decision involved with the huge amount of funds. And then secondly is involve greater amount of risk. If you use common sense, if you contribute in a huge amount or large amount of funds or cash, it makes you have a greater risk you make to face. Okay, and then thirdly is irreversible. Irreversible is make the decision is permanent, unbreakable. And then number 4 is the cash flow and inflow occur at different time. The nature of capital expenditure decision. Okay, firstly is the substantial investment. This capital expenditure decision is involved with the huge amount of funds and it has effect for a very long period of time. And then number 2, estimation of future cash flow. This preparation of the capital expenditure budget involve the forecasting of cash inflow over several years for evaluating the project profitability. Okay, number 3 is the irreversible decision. Once the approved capital expenditure decision, which make the representment of the long-term investment, cannot be revoked or withdrawn anytime. This decision also of the withdrawal may lead to the huge financial losses to the firm. Then lastly is the maximization of the shareholders' wealth. This help to protect the interest of the shareholders as well of the company because it avoids over-investment and under-investment in the fixed asset of the non-current asset. The objective of capital expenditure decision. There are 3 objectives of this decision, which are the cost reduction, providing contemporary goods, and lastly is increasing output. Okay, for the cost reduction, a company may depend on the production of the goods and services at a reasonable price and also depends on the profitability of the firm. This is possible when the company to avoid for the over or under investment in fixed asset. And then secondly is providing temporary goods. We know that consumer or customer taste, our taste is always change every day like us today. So when we need to satisfy the new demand or the needs of the customer, we need to have to improve the latest machinery, and it is necessary like either the installation of the new facility or the latest machinery, or expansion of the machine of the facility. And then we go for the increasing output. When we uh, when when the company install a new plant and machinery through their expansion, so the output may be increased by producing them. Okay, now we go for the method to evaluate the capital expenditure decision. Okay, we have three here. For the first one is the discounted payback period, and then number two is the net present value NPV, and number three is the internal rate of return IRR. You may have heard of this method. You might familiar with this. Okay, firstly, for those who don't know the discounted payback period. Okay, payback period is the method which have been developed to overcome the limitation of the non-discounted payback period. Instead of the normal cash inflow, discounted cash inflow are employed to calculate the payback period. Okay, and then it is time to recover the initial cost of investment through the discounted inflows of the project. What we know here, the advantage of using this discounted payback period is it's easy to understand and to calculate, and it takes into account for the time value of money. But there is a limitation for the discounted payback period, which means it does not take in account for the cash inflow that occur after the payback period. And then number two is the net present value. Net present value is the method for evaluating the capital expenditure decision using the discounted cash flow method. This is different from the discounted payback period. For this is a stipulated rate of interest, which means the usual cost of capital is used to discount the cash inflow. This NPV is calculated by taking a difference between the sum of the present value of cash inflow and the sum of present value of cash outflow. What we know is that it is easy to recognize the time value of money, but it is difficult to understand and calculate compared to the payback period method. Okay, number three is the internal rate of return. This is a method that avoid a stipulated rate of interest, but this is known as the yield of investment, which means the marginal efficiency of capital and marginal productivity of the capital. Internal rate of return also is the rate of discount, which equates the present value of expected cash inflow from a project with present value of the cash inflow. In other words, this return also is the rate of discount that makes the net present value of the project equals to zero. So what we means that it also recognizes the time value of money, and it considers the cash inflow and cash outflow over the entire life of the project, which means it different from the two methods before this I have explained, but it involves the lengthy and tedious calculation, which made it difficult to calculate. But sometimes the project have a multiple IRR, which may confuse users. For the factors of the capital expenditure decision, so now what we need to consider when we do the decision for the capital expenditure. Okay, firstly we go for the expected funds. As we know, the capital expenditure decision is involved with the large amount of funds, which is the long-term investment. We know that the company expect a guaranteed future earnings in total, which may affect the choice of a project, which the future earnings is also maybe in fluctuating or the in uniform. And then number two is the availability of the funds. Not all project is require the same level of investment, which some project also require a huge amount and having a high profitability. But if the company do not have a appropriate funds, that project may have to give up for the funds. This is also make the high risk. And then number three is the minimum ROR on the investment, which means ROR is the return on investment. Every management is expected a minimum rate of return or cut off rate on the capital investment. This is referred to the point of below which a project would not be accepted. This is the minimum, so the company need to consider for before reach for the capital expenditure decision. And then number four is the degree of risk and uncertainty. For due to the economic of condition, and then competition, demand and supply condition, and consumer preferences. This is the factor need to be considered. Because of every proposal involve a certain risk and uncertainty, and due to this effect also may have the company need to give up for doing the decision. And then the government regulation. For the government regulation, the company need to aware for the law and the regulation that have been imposed by the government. For example, the payment required before the taking the project. And then lastly is the competitors activities. Every company should watch the competitors activity, because we know their SWOT analysis, and we need to cover their analysis and the company analysis. And that's why the company should take decision before taking the capital expenditure decision, as it has the long-term investment. And that's why if the company do not have the company's activities, they need to give up for the decision, which mean this need to be implemented on the new project for the other company.
Now let's move to the first part of challenges in capital expenditure decisions, which is qualitative considerations. CapEx or capital expenditure decisions, it depends on both qualitative and quantitative factors. Anything that can be expressed in numbers is identified as quantitative factors, while decisions inputs that is hard or impossible to express in numbers is qualitative factors and is just as important as quantitative factors. Some business literature said that these as the soft factors, since they are less concrete and more open to interpretation. Lastly, it also can affect different areas of the company's operations. So let me explain what falls under qualitative considerations in decision-making process. First, corporate culture. What is corporate culture? It is about finding out how people approach their work, interaction, and solve problems, and what motivates them to improve their work. productivity of the employee are to be considered, culture clash is one of the primary reasons that many capital investments and mergers fail. So before managers making a decision, they should understand people's value, the way people work together, employees' morale, and what motivates them to excel. Second, social trends. It shows how the views of the society will change over the time. For example, fabrics that are expected to be trendy 10 years from now must be considered when building a factory to produce garments. It also influences how many hours of workers will be willing to work in the future and what kinds of jobs they will be willing to do for a given salary. Third, product or service quality. Managers should strike balance between cost and quality of capital resources to maximize the investment's cost efficiency. Business must avoid sacrificing the long-term benefit of being associated with quality products and services for the short-term quantitative benefit of cutting costs. The quality of the output must achieve customer satisfaction. Fourth, environmental impact. Companies that are perceived as good stewards of the environment are viewed in a more positive light by both consumers and stockholders. They receive valuable positive publicity or feedback and increased consumer awareness of their product. Its benefits can translate into acquiring new customers and increase loyalty from their existing customers. Fifth, strategic factors. It determines the best location to build and grow one's business. For example, a retailer might purchase a tract of land a years in advance to prevent a competitor from acquiring the property, knowing that someday it will be an ideal location for their new store. The immediate payback for the expenditure is not allowing the competitor to secure an advantageous location that could boost their revenues and market shares. Next, legal requirements or government regulations. There's need to consider government laws should always consider consequences of government's actions and inactions on any project that the company wants to execute. Furthermore, ethical considerations have greater impact on the capex decisions. It can be employee safety, local employment, and local air quality. For example, installing low quality of fire protection can endanger the employee's safety. Last but not least, competition-related qualitative factors. Factors that may affect the cash flow generated from a capital budgeting project due to the unanticipated actions of market's competitors. The competitors' unanticipated actions, such as cost reduction by inventing new production processes or going out of the market without warning, can undermine the expected cash flows of the capital budgeting project and cause serious issues in its expected generated results. Now, let's proceed to the qualitative considerations advantages. So, the first advantage, it may emphasize a strategy for organization to improve their capital expenditure decisions. For example, if the company's strategy is based on providing superior customer services such as telecommunication services, hotel, spa, flight, and many other services, it makes sense to take qualitative consideration based on the level of their customer satisfaction. Besides that, qualitative consideration gives benefit to the organization to strive for better financial performance. In this case, management accountant may measure product quality and customer satisfaction as they believe that high performance in these areas will flow through to improve their financial performance. Lastly, when the organization takes qualitative consideration in capital expenditure decision, it will lead to increased employee morale. Some organizations or companies sometimes spend money on capital improvements because they want to improve a better workplace environment for their employees. For example, ordering a new expenditure may not have an immediate payback to the company, but it can improve employee morale and result in greater productivity. Next, disadvantages of qualitative considerations. Firstly, when the organization or the company only focus on qualitative considerations, they may have problem with making capital expenditure or capex decision. For example, in situation if manager wants to judge or evaluate how positively the customers feel about their product, they have to analyze what the customers say carefully, paying attention to the positive words they use. Manager analysis results in qualitative judgment, such as conclusion that most customers like their product very much. Second, by focusing only on qualitative consideration, it may result in different outcomes for decision-making process. The results of qualitative analysis often are ambiguous but may contain additional info, while the quantitative results tend to be decisive. For example, customer interviews might indicate that customers like the product but would appreciate if faster deliveries provided. The quantitative analysis has no such extra information because it is focused only on particular characteristics such as customer satisfaction. The different outputs analysis that management accountant use the qualitative output to check what the quantitative data says and to keep the extra information for additional action. Lastly, qualitative factors cannot be measured as a number and they represent either negative or positive factors affecting the company. Okay, now let's move to the last part of qualitative considerations, which is how it does impact the decision-making process. So, qualitative considerations influence the aims and objectives of the firm, current and expected state of the economy, possible impacts on image and reputation, environmental and ethical considerations, past experience of the organization. It gives an effective way in determining the good capital expenditure or capex decision. For example, if a company open a new office branch in another city, by doing that, it may change the way of communication and information flow between the teams and reporting relationships. It will give either positive or negative effect to the employee morale.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna tell you guys what is technological advancement. So technological advancement is defined as an attempt at extending or further understanding the underlying science used to develop the current materials, devices, products, or processes. So thus, the importance of understanding the underlying science used to develop the materials, devices, products, and processes you may be attempting the advance. So this is considered the current state of the art and it will be discussed in a future posting. Alright, for the first point is meeting customer needs. Okay, here we give an example of web chat software. How does it help the business? Okay, when business are able to offer helps or answer question in the chat solution, thus the prospect or the customer may be able to make their purchasing decision sooner. Okay, next point is improving work-life balance. While technology can cause employees to be overworked, it also enables many people to maintain a work-life balance. As an example, improved network connectivity allows employees to work from home. Thus, this can save employees from spending time commuting. So the last point is doing business online. So e-commerce allows small business to reach wider audience that are outside of their geographical area, which totally benefit for small business. We go to the next slide is types of current technological advancement. The first one is internet. So when using internet, information collected is more precise. Furthermore, data will be translated to the value information. And lastly, it can improve efficiency because it enables the business to link with the machines, computer, and human. Alright, for robotics, robot don't get distracted or need to take breaks. Robot can work all the time and this can speed up the production. Okay, next, robot never need to divide their attention between a multitude of things. They are always there and they are doing what they are supposed to do. And the last one is robot will always deliver quality. Since they are programming for precise, repetitive motion, they are less likely to make a mistake. Alright, for the next slide, we are talking about what is the latest technological advancement. Okay, here I give two examples. So the first one is artificial intelligence or AI. So there are four forms of AI. The first one is the most basic form. AI can perform function but have no memories. Okay, the second level is it has limited memory. The third one, they can develop an understanding the world around. And the last step is a program that can make judgment about itself and the world around it, but it is not yet in the final stage. Alright, so what about cloud computing? It allows IT professionals to store data and access resources via the internet. Cloud computing is also bolstering one of other advancements in information technology because a library of machine learning tools is available to the masses, opening new possibilities for innovation. Okay, for the next slide, we are talking about factors to be considered in technological advancement. The first one is automation. Automation of many unskilled tasks allow companies to replace human production lines with entirely machine ones. This can reduce costs for manufacturers. Next one is resources and financial support. So budget for technical advancement or innovation, it cannot take too many chances in terms of innovation because it is expensive and have adverse effect on their budgets. So the third one is support from top management. A willingness of an organization to allow some amount of trial and error is needed because not all innovation effort leads to success. There's support from top management is really important in this technology advancement. Alright, now we are talking about the importance of technological advancement. So the first one is educational. Technology fuels most of the educational system testing. Technology make it more efficient for teachers to handle report cards and grading papers. Thus, it can cut down the working hours that usually go well beyond the school day. The next one is communication. Whether in business or personal life, technology has improved communication. The apps available also do well when trying to stay connected to family members that live far away. And the last one is space. Without technology, NASA will not have advanced this far in the space industry. Technology is important in learning more about the galaxy that surrounds us so that perhaps we can uncover the hidden mystery in the world. Now we are going to talk about the pros and cons of technological advancement. Okay, what is the first one of advantages? The technology increase the efficiency of any task or activity and it making it faster. The next one is using technologies, it can save time and increase the efficiency of the task. Third one is technology has improved communication globally and enables instant connect. And the last one is technology helps reduce the risk of cybercrime by using artificial intelligence. We move to the disadvantages of the technology advancement. So the first one is the dependability on technology has increased, thus it can make our life sedentary. The second one is technology leads to a shortage of human jobs as it is replaced the task of the humans. The third one is technology is not something that everybody can afford because it is expensive. And there's The last one is the slightest malfunction in a technology can have a bigger negative impact on a process. So in the next slide, we are going to talk about the differentiation between CAPEX and OPEX. CAPEX is capital expenditure, while OPEX is operational expenditure. So the definition of CAPEX, it is a purchases of significant goods or services that will be used to improve a company performance in future. The benefit of CAPEX is it is easier for organization to meet the budgetary requirements, while the example is acquiring fixed assets such as machinery and patents. Okay, we move to OPEX. The definition of OPEX is the cost a company incurs for running their day-to-day operation. But the benefit is flexibility to introduce new technology in a workplace does not require large amount of money. So the example is license fee, maintenance, and repairs.
Next, we will proceed to synergistic effect. The definition of synergistic effect. A synergistic effect appears when the combination of two variables produce a better result than the one obtained by employing both variables individually. It is a situation where a better outcome is achieved by merging elements. If the value combined for the entity is more than the value operated alone, it is classified as a positive synergy, while if the value operated alone more than the value combined, it is classified as a negative synergy. It is also important to consider whether the decisions will lead to creation of synergy effect through successful integration of resource in making any capital investment decision. There are three types of synergy. The first one is revenue synergy. The second one is cost synergy. The third one is financial synergy. Go to the first one, which is revenue synergy. Revenue synergy is resulting when an acquisition or a combined company can generate more sales compared to companies that work independently or separately. For example, if company A have more share than company B, company A will have more access to control the product or services offered by company B. Therefore, company A have more power to make decisions compared to company B. Besides that, revenue synergy also can provide attractive economic for both parties when seller generate revenue synergy from the buyer. As the result, the seller can demand for a higher price in future. The second one is cost synergy. Cost synergy can be referred to opportunity of a combined corporate entity to reduce and eliminate expenses in a running business. It can be realized by eliminating the positions that are reviewed as duplicate within the merged entity. The cost reduction is one of the most important benefits of cost synergy. In the case of cost synergy, the rate of revenue may not increase, but the cost will definitely get reduced. The third one is financial synergy. Financial synergy refers to two mid-sized companies that merge to create financial advantages. If a mid-level company borrows a loan from the bank might charge a high interest, but if a merged company borrows a loan from the bank, they will get a benefit because they had a better capital structure and cash flow to support their borrowing. The merged company not only can receive financial advantages, but they can also achieve additional tax benefit and increase the debt capacity and reduce the combined costs. This can affect on accounting and business. In accounting, a synergistic effect value should be included in the cash flow calculation, either in positive or negative value. While in business, a synergistic effect can be evidenced in merger or takeover situation where the combination of two companies produce the best overall competitive position and greater financial result than its individual result. For example, merger situation is where the two entities combine to create a new entity, while takeover situation is where one entity takes over another entity. Next is the parameter to calculate the synergy. The first one is benefit impact from synergy effect. This basically means that each forecast component should be critically reviewed. However, consultant tends to make overly optimistic cash flow and costs. Therefore, it is important to make sure there is a benefit from the synergy. The second one is the time of benefit generation. History of merger and acquisition deals has a lot of cases when speeding up with purpose of increasing acquisition attractiveness leads to overestimated synergy value. The third one is the probability for achieving. The probability must be optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic to be achieved. Next, we will be discussing about the benefit of synergistic effect. In the term of operating benefit, the first one is it has a high return on investment. The second one is it able to make more investment. The third one is more sustainable access return over time, and the fourth one is to gain more economic scale, which reduce the cost and increase the market power. In the term of financial benefit, the first one is it can create a tax benefit where an acquirer may enjoy lower tax on earning. The second one is a larger company will be able to incur more debt as it can reduce the cost of capital. And the third one is the diversification benefit may increase the cost of equity. We go to challenges in applying synergy to industry. The first one is job losses. This is a particular cause of concern if it is an aggressive takeover by asset stripping company, where a firm which seek to merge and get rid of underperforming sector of the target firm. Other economists also argue that description of job losses only will lead to temporary job losses and unemployed will find a new job in more efficient firm. The second challenge is hard to implement. It is hard for industry to practice synergy in real life compared to theory practice. This is because it requires a lot of commitment from various companies since not all company has the same level. The procedure also is quite complicated and it requires high costs.
Let's move on to the next subtopic, environmental effect. Before I explain to you how capital expenditure put an impact to the environment, let me explain what environmental effect is. Firstly, what is environment? Environment can simply be described as the surrounding. Therefore, it is the surrounding of a person, object, or even an element. Look around us and see what is your surrounding. It could be water, it could be air, it could be people, as well as the landscapes. Next is effect. Effect is the changes that happen due to action taken by something or someone. In other words, effect is results, outcomes, and consequences. You already know the meaning of environment and effect. So what is environmental effect? Environmental effect is the shift that will occur on our environment due to human activities. Effects of activity done by a company are not always negative. it can also be positive too. Here are the 5 basic common effects that an activity can have on our environment. For example, air, water, soil, light, and also noise. There are 3 types of environmental effect that occurs in our surrounding every single day: direct effect, indirect effect, as well as cumulative effect. Direct effect occurs when an activity has an immediate or quick reaction towards the environment, social, as well as the economy. For instance, factory waste being released to the river that will have effect on the marine habitat and the quality of water. Indirect effect on environment happen when the activity do not have an immediate effect on the environment. For example, soil acidity caused by rainfall and leaching, acidic parent material, and organic matter decay. Lastly, cumulative effect, which is the change in the environment that is caused by the combined impact of the past, present, and future human activities. In example, greenhouse effect, loss of soil quality, and deposition of toxic substance in aquatic sediments. I will be explaining to you how capital expenditure in certain industry may have an effect to our environment. Like I said earlier, the effect of a capital expenditure may either be positive or negative. Let's start with manufacturing activity. Air pollution and water pollution are common effects a manufacturing may have on the environment. Manufacturing company will pollute the air when they release the smoke into the open air, blowing chemical vapors and smoke out through their vents. They emit various gases into our air such as carbon dioxide and methane. This will decrease the quality of air and cause global warming. Factories also pollute water. How? Factories dump the chemical waste into the rivers and lakes. For instance, textile dye waste, toxic waste, and chemical spills. The smoke that factory release also will increase the acidity of the rain, which eventually, when it rains, the water will end up in our ecosystem and contaminate the river. How can manufacturing industry positively affect our environment, you may ask? The golden rule: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Some manufacturing company can minimize their waste by performing energy audit to see where company can reduce their energy usage in producing their output without affecting the quality. Company can reuse by putting item to the same or different use after it has served its purpose. For example, filtering used water to be used in manufacturing process. Finally, recycle. Company can recycle by turning used item into something new. Instead of dumping the waste, company can recycle the material to produce more or new products. Next, let's touch on agriculture industry. In order to make room for crops field and livestock fed, this company will perform deforestation. However, this will cause global warming due to less oxygen production. Just like manufacturing company, agricultural industry also cause water pollution. The use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and insecticides in growing crops will then eventually flow into the river. This will prevent the light to penetrate past through the water surface, thus affect the ecosystem. The flow of chemical into the water system also affect the quality and quantity of water available to the society. On the other hand, agriculture can bring goodness to the environment by creating habitat, boost soil fertility, and preserve ecosystem. How does agriculture industry create habitat? Some species increase in number due to agriculture activities. and it also maintains the land from urban development. Boost soil fertility. How does agriculture industry does this? The activity that is being done over and over to the soil, such as covering the cropping and applying compost, may improve the soil fertility naturally. This can speed up the process of new topsoil formation. This industry also preserves the ecosystem. Although that this industry caused deforestation, this industry also grow grassland fields such as paddy field. This will ensure the continuance of these plants for the future. This also contributes to the income of people in the rural area. The last industry that I will be touching on this subtopic is construction industries. How can construction industry affect our environment negatively? It can pollute the water, air, as well as noise. How can this industry pollute the water and air? Construction activity involved in land clearing, using diesel in their vehicles, and working with toxic materials. This industry caused the climate changes, usage of energy, and landfill waste. As per noise pollution, generally construction sites are known for its noise, mainly from loud machines and vehicle, as well as workers shouting from one another. Excessive noise is not only irritating but also can lead to high blood pressure, disturbance in the society, and also anger. Can construction industry help the environment positively? Of course they can. One of the way is that many construction companies nowadays will have eco-friendly design. What does this mean? Some buildings are built from recycled material. Some construction company takes the initiative to let their building being powered by renewable energy, such as using solar panels. Many buildings today also uses windows, which can maximize the usage of natural lighting into the building and not solely relying on lights. This industry can also impact the environment positively by managing their waste. Reducing waste are achievable since haulers have grown more sophisticated these days. Job sites now only need one hauler because it uses pickers to separate materials.
The conclusion for the challenges in the capital expenditure decision. As we know, the capital expenditure decision is the process of the making decision of investment in the fixed asset. We know, and then we know that the capex decision is depends on the both qualitative and the quantitative factors. We know the example of electricity, elevator, and GPS is the example of the technological advancement for the new invention nowadays. And then for the synergetic effect can be negative or positive, and it can be used for the opportunity cost principle. Meanwhile, for the environmental effects is concerned for how much the environmental effect has grown, and it has the negative effect of the product manufacturing.
That's all from us. Thank you.